A quarter century ago, BMW gave us the Z3. It was the first BMW model to be manufactured 100% outside of Germany, down in Greer, South Carolina, and the last BMW model to sport the lauded old trailing arm rear suspension. It was a true, pure sports car in every sense of the word, and it's the reason we're standing here looking at this today. Hi, I'm Mike Perkins from CarGurus, and this is the 2020 BMW Z4 M40i. Now, I'm supposed to offer suggestions as to which trim CarGurus recommends, and I'm not going to belabor the point. You can have it with a 4-cylinder engine in the 30i or with an inline 6 like you see here in the M40i. And you're going to want this M40i. Why? Well, not just because it has one of the best engine and transmission combos in history. It does. But something magical has blissfully finally happened with this car. The version that we get here in the States is more powerful than the one they get in Europe. 40 horses more powerful, in fact. Perhaps justice isn't completely dead after all. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to have fun with the smaller engine in the 30i. It's an eager, sprightly power plant. It gives you a 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, and that'll get you to 60 miles an hour in about 5.5 seconds. And that is fast. I mean, it's not, I need to change a shorts fast, but it's still plenty of fun fast. And it weighs about 100 pounds less than this, although we'll discuss that later. No, the real reason that I feel you need to go with the M40i is because of the overall character of this car. Because while the original Z3, that was a true, pure sports car, this is not. Now, this is a luxury cruising convertible. Now, to be fair, it's a luxury cruising convertible that does a very, very good impression of a sports car, but that is a very different animal than an actual sports car. No, the ideal conditions for this are to take a cruise down the coast, grab some dinner, and then realize, you know, it's a little bit later than you thought it was, so you're just gonna take the highway home and relax and enjoy the heated seats and the heated steering wheel and the fact that the bigger engine is going to give you enough punch up top to make, let's just call it higher speed passing. It'll make that an absolute joy. And that is where the smaller engine is going to fall a little bit short for you. Now, do I wish this were still a true, pure sports car? Yeah, absolutely I do. But is this better? Yeah, it probably is. And let's be clear, this is great. Like I said, one of the best engine transmission combos ever to be produced, and that's not to be dismissed. Though I am going to dismiss it right now to talk about the handling instead. You see, one of the big factors that goes into that transformation from sports car to cruiser is the weight. The original Z3, that weighed 2,800 pounds, and this is closer to 34. And if you don't think 600 pounds is much, do me a favor. Go find 3 200-pound adults and toss them into your car. See if you can feel a difference when you drive around. However, and I want to be clear, this handles every single pound of that curb weight with elegance. The engine pushed far back into the bay means there's absolutely no understeer to be found. The M electronic diff means that oversteer is a completely controllable affair that peeks its head into the party, says its hellos, and then disappears before dinner is served. And if you turn off the traction control, yes, the 383 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque are more than enough to smoke the tires, not to mention get you to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. There are some quirks, however. There's no Android Auto, and the connection with Apple CarPlay is so intermittent it's hardly worth mentioning. There's no manual option either. Now, thankfully, the 8-speed ZF transmission is nearly psychic with its response, but I still lament the omission. And the rear end has an odd habit of hopping around quite a bit when you're cornering hard around less than perfect pavement. personally, I kind of like it. It reminds me of my old pickup trucks and our old Mustang, but is that really something you should be experiencing in a car that starts at 64 or 70 as you see here? Now, let's talk about the things that you should be experiencing in a car with a 70 grand price tag. First, how quiet is it in here? I mean, that's one of the main things that you're going to notice this versus any of the competition. Not that there really is much competition anymore now that the SLC is going away, but when you compare this to, say, a Miata, the difference is astonishing, top, up or down. And honestly, I wouldn't really call the Miata all that loud, but it's just so serene in here, no matter the speed. And really, that's the entire story with this thing. Everything just feels solid. And by that, I mean the seats and the handling and the steering and the buttons and the fitment, everything. Everything except for these speakers. These look and feel cheap, and that should not be in a 70 grand car. This interior is obviously very distinctly BMW, and that's a good thing. I mean, things look so clean and elegant in here as opposed to the usual wall of buttons that I get, and frankly that I have trouble as seeing as anything other than a safety issue. Now, you are going to have to deal with a distinct lack of storage space in here. You're basically limited to some very tight door pockets, a pseudo parcel shelf here behind the front seats, and these drink holders. And by the way, don't listen to reviewers who tell you that you can't use the armrest if you have drinks in the cup holders, because that's just very simply not true, and they must not have really tested it, because look, it works just fine. I mean, the passengers have luck for someplace to put his arm, but here on the driver's side, I've got everything that I need. If you can ignore the lack of front storage, the Z4 actually does quite well. With 9.9 cubic feet of trunk space, it leads the class, depending on how you define that class. But stack it up against the Miata, and it's got twice as much. Against the Audi TT, you get an extra 2 cubes, and it just beats the Porsche Boxster by half a cube. And the Boxster has 2 trunks, remember. Even better, putting the top down doesn't impede on that space at all. There's also a little pass-through for your skis or lacrosse sticks or extra long baguettes. Now, why should you spend $60,000 to $70,000 on a Z4 when you can get into a Miata or a Mustang for merely half the cost? Well, for me, it's not any one thing, but a culmination of things. It's the overall refinement. It's how quiet the cabin is. It's that astonishing engine and transmission that just have to be driven to be understood. And it's little touches, like the fact that the car automatically locks and unlocks itself just by my approaching without me even having to touch it. Now, is that enough to make you want to spend some more? I guess you're just going to have to drive it and find out. Hey, thanks for watching. For full details on the 2020 BMW Z4, just click the link in the description. You can head over to CarGurus.com where you can read my full review. And for more videos, well, just subscribe to the channel.